Welcome to Flow Speak Studio, where English flows naturally. Let's start speaking with confidence.
Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt like you didn't belong, even though no one said anything? That silence, that look, that feeling of something's off.
Yeah, and the hardest part is it's not about English vocabulary, it's about social language. Because real English isn't just spoken, it's felt.
Most English learners focus on saying things correctly, but native speakers focus on something else entirely. How does this sound emotionally? Do I sound relaxed? Do I sound distant? Do I sound awkward without meaning to?
That's why today's episode matters. Because social English isn't about impressing people, it's about surviving real moments, meeting someone new, fitting in, standing out, or knowing when to step back.
Welcome to Flow Speak Studio. This is special episode 8, English for Real Social Situations.
Every expression today lives in social space, moments where you don't know what to say. You don't want to say too much. You want connection, but not pressure.
Native speakers rely on these phrases because they soften reality, they protect emotions, they manage distance, they create safety. This is English people use when feelings are involved.
Let's start with something foundational, something that opens doors. Break the ice. Break the ice. This phrase exists because humans feel tension before connection.
To break the ice means to reduce social tension, not by being perfect, not by being impressive, but by being human first. It acknowledges awkwardness instead of fighting it.
This phrase is used at first meetings, new jobs, group situations, dates. It signals, I know this is uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Trying too hard to break the ice can feel forced. Native speakers don't break the ice loudly, they do it gently. For example, at the meeting, he made a small joke just to break the ice before everyone spoke. Another example is she asked where everyone was from to break the ice, not to impress, just to connect.
This phrase protects everyone involved. It gives permission to relax. Now let's move into something more subtle. Read the room. Read the room.
This means understanding unspoken emotional signals, tone, body language, energy. It's about awareness, not words.
Native speakers use this when someone talks too much, jokes at the wrong moment, misses emotional cues. It's often advice, sometimes criticism.
Telling someone to read the room directly can sound harsh. It's usually implied, not stated. For example, he kept joking during the serious discussion. He really didn't read the room. Another example is she changed her tone once she read the room and felt the tension.
This phrase values emotional intelligence over confidence.
Let's shift to relationships. Get along with. Get along with. This isn't about deep friendship. It's about peaceful coexistence, mutual respect, no conflict.
Used at work, family, social circles. It signals emotional maturity. For example, I don't agree with him, but I get along with him just fine. Another example is, she gets along with most people because she listens more than she talks.
This phrase protects harmony.
Now something quieter. Keep to yourself. Keep to yourself.
This doesn't mean rude. It means private, choosing distance, not isolation.
Used to describe personality, not behavior. For example, he's friendly, but he tends to keep to himself. Another example is, she kept to herself at work while adjusting to the new environment.
This phrase protects personal boundaries. Let's end this part with loyalty. Stick with someone. Stick with someone.
This means staying, emotionally or physically, when it matters. For example, he stuck with her even when things got uncomfortable. Another example is, I'll stick with you during the meeting. You're not alone.
This phrase communicates safety.
Let's move into something many people feel but rarely say out loud. Blend in. Blend in.
To blend in means choosing similarity over attention. It's not about losing who you are. It's about reducing friction. You're saying, I don't need to stand out right now.
Native speakers use this in new environments, new cultures, new groups. It's a survival phrase.
Blending in too much can feel invisible. That's why this phrase always lives in balance. For example, when I started the new job, I tried to blend in before sharing my opinions. Another example is, he dressed casually to blend in with the group and avoid attention.
This phrase protects safety over ego.
Now let's flip the emotional direction. Stand out. Stand out.
This means being noticeable, intentionally. Not loud, not aggressive, but distinct.
Used when uniqueness matters. Work, creativity, moments where visibility equals opportunity.
Standing out emotionally can invite judgment. That's why native speakers choose when to do it. For example, she didn't try to be louder. She stood out by being clear. Another example is, his calm confidence made him stand out in the room.
This phrase signals self-trust.
This next one hits close to home for many learners. Feel out of place. Feel out of place.
This phrase describes emotional mismatch, not rejection, not failure, just misalignment. Used honestly, often vulnerably, it communicates discomfort without blame. For example, at the party, I felt out of place because I didn't know anyone. Another example is, he felt out of place in the conversation, so he stayed quiet.
This phrase validates inner experience.
Let's bring some warmth back in. Hit it off. Hit it off.
This means immediate connection. Not logical, not planned, just easy.
Used for friendships, dates, coworkers, it suggests emotional flow. For example, we hit it off instantly. The conversation just flowed. Another example is, she and her new teammate hit it off from day one.
This phrase signals relief. Now let's talk about distance, the quiet kind. Drift apart. Drift apart.
This phrase describes emotional separation without conflict. No argument, no drama, just time. Used to describe relationships that change naturally. It removes blame. For example, we didn't fight, we just drifted apart over the years. Another example is, they drifted apart after life took them in different directions.
This phrase softens loss.
Up to this point, we've talked about connection, about fitting in, about drifting away quietly. But now we're stepping into the moments people fear, the pauses, the pressure, the feeling of being watched.
Yeah, this is where English learners usually freeze, not because they don't know words, but because emotions take over. All right, let's start with something deceptively simple. Make small talk. Make small talk.
Small talk is not meaningless talk. It's emotional warming up. You're not exchanging information. You're testing safety.
Used in elevators, waiting rooms, first meetings. It prevents silence from becoming threatening.
Too much small talk can feel shallow. Too little can feel cold. Native speakers feel this balance instinctively. For example, at networking events, people make small talk before discussing business. Another example is, she made small talk about the weather to ease the tension.
This phrase protects social comfort.
Now let's move into emotional control. Keep things light. Keep things light.
This phrase is about emotional weight. It means, don't make this heavy right now.
Used when topics get intense, emotions rise. timing is wrong.
Used poorly, it can feel dismissive. Tone matters more than words. For example, let's keep things light tonight. It's not the time for serious talks. Another example is, he joked to keep things light during the awkward moment.
This phrase protects the mood.
This next one carries quiet social warning. Overstay your welcome. Overstay your welcome.
It means staying longer than the emotional invitation, not about time, about energy.
Often said indirectly, rarely confrontational. For example, we stayed too long and started to feel like we were overstaying our welcome. Another example is, he left early so he wouldn't overstay his welcome.
This phrase preserves dignity. Now, let's return to connection. Be on the same wavelength. Be on the same wavelength.
This phrase describes emotional alignment. You think similarly. You feel similarly.
Used in friendships, teamwork, relationships, it signals ease. For example, we work well together because we're on the same wavelength. Another example is, they instantly connected, clearly on the same wavelength.
This phrase names chemistry. Let's deepen that idea. Feel a connection. Feel a connection.
This is emotional honesty. It doesn't explain why, it just acknowledges what is.
Used cautiously. It's vulnerable language. For example, I felt a connection during our conversation. Another example is, she didn't know why, but she felt a connection.
This phrase opens emotional doors.
There's a moment in conversations when your body reacts before your mind does. You feel heat in your face. Your thoughts disappear. And suddenly, English feels very far away.
Yeah, and native speakers feel this too. They just have phrases for it. All right, let's name that feeling. Cringeworthy. Cringeworthy.
This phrase describes emotional discomfort caused by someone else's actions. Not anger, not sadness. It's that secondhand, oh no feeling.
Used when something is socially awkward. Someone tries too hard. Boundaries feel crossed. For example, that joke was so awkward, it was cringeworthy. Another example is, the way he bragged nonstop was honestly cringeworthy.
This phrase releases tension through humor. Now let's deepen that emotion. Secondhand embarrassment. Secondhand embarrassment.
This means feeling embarrassed for someone else, even when they don't notice.
It shows empathy, not judgment. You feel with the situation. For example, I felt secondhand embarrassment watching him argue. Another example is, that talent show audition gave me secondhand embarrassment.
This phrase names shared discomfort. Now let's talk about pressure. Put on the spot. Put on the spot.
This phrase describes unexpected pressure to respond. No preparation, no escape.
Used in meetings, questions, confrontations. For example, he put me on the spot by asking in front of everyone. Another example is, she froze when the boss put her on the spot.
This phrase validates overwhelm, and this is the body's response. Freeze up. Freeze up.
It means your mind goes blank. Not because you don't know, but because emotions hijack the moment.
Often paired with anxiety or pressure. For example, I froze up during the interview. Another example is, he knew the answer but froze up under pressure.
This phrase removes shame. Let's go even deeper. Feel exposed. Feel exposed.
This is emotional vulnerability. You feel seen without protection.
Used when honesty feels risky. For example, I felt exposed to sharing my opinion. Another example is, she felt exposed after admitting the truth.
This phrase honors courage.
Let's move into something difficult, but powerful. Swallow your pride. Swallow your pride.
This phrase means choosing humility over ego. You know you could defend yourself, but you don't. Not because you're weak, but because peace matters more.
Used in apologies, reconciliation, conflict resolution. For example, he swallowed his pride and apologized even though it wasn't easy. Another example is, she swallowed her pride to keep the relationship intact.
This phrase restores balance. Now, let's name the thing everyone feels. Awkward silence. Awkward silence.
This isn't just silence, it's silence with weight. Something should be said and no one says it.
Used humorously or honestly, it acknowledges shared discomfort. For example, there was an awkward silence after the comment. Another example is, the joke failed and awkward silence followed.
Naming it reduces tension. Let's move into social awareness. Miss the cue. Miss the cue.
This means failing to notice a social signal, a pause, a look, a shift in energy.
Often used gently, not accusatory. For example, I kept talking. I completely missed the cue. Another example is, he missed the cue and stayed too long.
This phrase teaches awareness. Now, let's talk about boundaries. Step on someone's toes. Step on someone's toes.
It means unintentionally offending or interfering. No bad intention, just miscalculation.
Used to soften mistakes. For example, I didn't mean to step on your toes. Another example is, she avoided stepping on anyone's toes at work.
This phrase protects relationships. This next one is very personal. Feel judged. Feel judged.
It means sensing criticism even without words, real or imagined.
Often used vulnerably. For example, I felt judged when I shared my opinion. Another example is, she felt judged for being different.
This phrase gives voice to insecurity. Let's lighten, but stay real. Make a scene. Make a scene.
This means drawing public attention through emotion, usually unintentionally.
Often avoided, not admired. For example, he didn't want to make a scene in public. Another example is, she made a scene without realizing it.
This phrase teaches restraint. Now something very human. Try too hard. Try too hard.
This means effort becomes visible, and visibility kills ease.
Used when authenticity is lost. For example, he was trying too hard to impress. Another example is, she tried too hard and it felt forced.
This phrase reminds us to relax. Now, let's talk dignity. Save face. Save face.
This means preserving self-respect publicly, even when wrong.
Used carefully, culturally sensitive. For example, he apologized privately to help her save face. Another example is, they changed the topic so no one lost face.
This phrase protects identity. Now let's recover. Brush it off. Brush it off.
It means not letting something define you. You acknowledge it, then release it. For example, he brushed off the comment and moved on. Another example is, she brushed it off instead of overthinking.
This phrase restores control.
And finally, healing through humor. Laugh it off. Laugh it off.
This means transforming discomfort into connection. Laughter resets energy. For example, they laughed it off and continued talking. Another example is, she laughed it off to ease the tension.
This phrase repairs moments. If you've felt awkward, if you've frozen, if you've replayed moments in your head, you're not broken, you're human.
And English isn't just words, it's how we navigate moments like these. Silence, pressure, recovery.
These phrases don't make you perfect, they make you present.
Thank you for spending this time with us. If this episode helped you feel seen or understood or more confident, subscribe to Flow Speak Studio so you don't miss what's next.
Your English doesn't need to be loud. It needs to be real. This was Flow Speak Studio. Until next time, keep flowing.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment down below.